A poor student tutored a struggling child for free, never imagining how this simple act of kindness would transform both their lives forever. The autumn rain pelted against the cracked windows of Noah's tiny apartment, each drop echoing the hollow feeling in his stomach. 23 years old, brilliant but broke, he stared at the final notice from the university's financial aid office while the radiator clanked uselessly in the corner. Too expensive to run, even as November's chill seeped through the thin walls. Noah's fingers trembled slightly as he folded the letter and tucked it beneath his textbooks. 3 months behind on tuition, working 2 jobs and still drowning. His scholarship had been his lifeline, but his mother's illness last semester had forced him to miss classes, his perfect GPA slipping just enough to lose the financial support. The physics equations that had once been his sanctuary now blurred before his exhausted eyes. One more semester, he whispered to himself, the mantra that had kept him going these past weeks. Just one more semester to graduate, to finally escape the poverty that had defined his entire existence. The empty refrigerator hummed in response, a reminder that he'd skipped dinner again to save for tomorrow's bus fare. His phone buzzed, the screen illuminating a text from the community center coordinator. Can you take on another tutoring slot tomorrow? Child having serious academic difficulties. Parents can't afford regular rates. Noah closed his eyes, feeling the weight of his own financial crisis pressing down on him. He already volunteered twice a week at the center, hours he could spend picking up extra shifts at the convenience store. But something, perhaps the memory of his own childhood struggles, of teachers who had believed in him when no one else would, made his fingers type, "Yes, I'll be there." The community center stood like a faded beacon amid the neighborhood's deterioration, its walls painted in cheerful colors that had long since dulled. Noah shook rainwater from his worn jacket as he entered, the familiar smell of industrial cleaner and craft supplies greeting him. His stomach growled audibly, breakfast having been nothing more than half a protein bar and black coffee. "Noah, thank you for coming." Mrs. Rivera, the center coordinator, approached with a relieved smile. Her eyes, always perceptive, lingered on his pallor. "Have you eaten today?" "I'm fine." He deflected, the lie practiced and smooth. "Tell me about the new student." She hesitated, then gestured toward a small figure, huddled alone at a corner table. "That's Adam, 10 years old, very bright but struggling tremendously. He's different from our usual kids. The family recently moved here, and they're extremely private. The father seems..." She searched for the word important, but they specifically requested someone who wouldn't recognize them. Noah raised an eyebrow. "Well, I barely have time to recognize my own reflection these days, so I think we're safe." The boy sat perfectly still, his posture unnaturally rigid, eyes fixed on an open textbook. Despite the center's informal atmosphere, he wore a crisp button-down shirt and pressed slacks that seemed wildly out of place. More striking was the profound sadness that seemed to emanate from his small frame. "Hello, Adam," Noah said, pulling out a chair. "I'm Noah. I hear you and math aren't getting along too well?" The boy looked up, his eyes startlingly blue and wary. "My father says I need to excel at mathematics. It's unacceptable that I don't understand it." His accent was slight but distinctive, the words formal as if reciting something memorized. "Well, I don't know about unacceptable," Noah replied, settling into the chair. "But I do know that math can feel like a foreign language until something clicks, and then suddenly you're fluent." Adam stared at him, clearly unused to such a casual dismissal of parental authority. "You don't understand. My father will be proud when you improve." Noah interrupted gently. "But right now, it's just you and me and these numbers. Let's forget about everyone else for a bit." Something in the boy's rigid posture softened almost imperceptibly. Noah noticed a small scar near his temple, partially hidden by carefully combed hair, and wondered briefly about its origin before focusing on the worksheet before them. It quickly became apparent that Adam's struggles stemmed not from lack of intelligence. The boy was remarkably sharp, but from tremendous anxiety. His hands trembled when he wrote, and he flinched at the slightest mistake as if expecting punishment. "Hey," Noah said softly after Adam had erased a problem so vigorously that he tore the paper. "It's okay to make mistakes here. That's how we learn. My tutors at Ho..." Adam caught himself. "My previous tutors said mistakes reflect poor character." Noah's heart twisted. "Well, with all due respect to them, that's complete nonsense. My best professor once told me that being wrong is the first step to understanding something new." He tapped the torn paper. "Besides, I make mistakes all the time." "You do?" The disbelief in Adam's voice was almost comical. "Absolutely. Last week I put salt in my coffee instead of sugar. Twice. A smile flickered across Adam's face so quickly Noah almost missed it. But it was there, a brief crack in the perfect polished facade. For the next hour, Noah patiently worked through problems, deliberately making small errors for Adam to catch, celebrating each correction with such enthusiasm that the boy gradually began to relax. When their session ended, Adam had successfully completed problems that had seemed insurmountable at the start. "Same time next week?" Noah asked as they packed up. Adam nodded, then hesitated. "My father, he will want to know if you think if I can improve." The vulnerability in the question made Noah's chest tighten. "You can tell your father that you have an exceptional mind and that I'd be honored to continue working with you." Something like hope flickered in the boy's eyes. As he turned to leave, a tall man in an impeccable suit appeared at the doorway, flanked by two stern-faced individuals who scanned the room with practiced efficiency. Adam's posture immediately reverted to its previous rigidity. "Thank you for your assistance," the man said to Noah, his voice clipped and formal. He placed a hand on Adam's shoulder, steering him toward the exit. "He did very well today." Noah called after them, but they were already gone, whisked away in a sleek black car that seemed wildly out of place in the neighborhood. "Missy," Rivera appeared beside him. "Strange family," she murmured. The father insisted on paying anonymously through a third party, triple our usual suggested donation. Noah's eyebrows rose. "Triple? For a free program?" I tried to explain we don't charge, but she shrugged. "I put it toward the center's winter heating fund." "Speaking of which," she pressed a paper bag into his hands. "Leftover sandwiches from the staff meeting. Take them." Noah wanted to refuse, pride rising like bile in his throat, but hunger won out. "Thanks," he mumbled, hating the heat in his cheeks. That night, huddled under blankets in his frigid apartment, Noah found himself thinking about Adam's eyes, the way they had lit up when he'd solved a particularly difficult problem. The brief glimpse of a normal 10-year-old boy beneath a polished exterior. There was a story there, one that nagged at him as he drifted into an exhausted sleep. The tutoring sessions became a fixed point in Noah's increasingly precarious existence. Winter descended with brutal force, and his apartment's heating failed completely. He took to studying in the university library until closing, returning home only to sleep bundled in every piece of clothing he owned. His second job at the convenience store cut his hours, the manager apologetic but firm about the post-holiday slowdown. Through it all, Adam became an unexpected bright spot. The boy arrived each week with the same formal attire and perfect posture, but gradually a transformation emerged. Small smiles appeared more frequently, then actual laughter, a sound so startled and genuine that it seemed Adam himself was surprised by it. "You're not like my other teachers," Adam confided during their fourth session, when they had moved past mathematics to help with his language arts struggles. "Oh, how so?" Noah asked, genuinely curious. Adam considered this with the seriousness only a child can muster. "You don't care who my father is. You just care if I understand decimals." Noah laughed. "Well, I do care about more than decimals. I care that you're learning to think for yourself." He paused, studying the boy's expression. "Is your father very important?" Adam's face closed immediately, the practiced mask slipping back into place. "My father says we must be careful about what we share with others." The response chilled Noah more than his freezing apartment. What kind of parent taught a child such suspicion? Yet he recognized the boundary and respected it, changing the subject to their reading assignment. Their routine continued through December and into January, each session revealing more glimpses of the real Adam beneath the formal exterior. Noah learned that the boy loved astronomy but had never actually looked through a telescope. He discovered Adam had a talent for drawing but hid his sketches from his father. Most concerning, he noticed the boy occasionally winced when moving suddenly, as if nursing unseen injuries. One particularly bitter January afternoon, Adam arrived with a barely concealed limp and a new bruise partially visible beneath his collar. Noah's stomach clenched. "What happened?" he asked carefully, keeping his voice neutral. "Physical training," Adam replied too quickly. "I was clumsy." Noah hesitated, years of his own childhood explanations for unexplainable injuries echoing in his mind. But before he could press further, Adam pulled out his notebook. "I did the extra problems you assigned," he said, his tone brooking no further discussion about the bruise. "All of them." Noah recognized the deflection but allowed it, making a mental note to speak with Miss Rivera after their session. They worked through English comprehension exercises, then moved to science concepts. Adam's quick mind continued to impress him, especially when the boy made connections between subjects that showed remarkable insight. "You know," Noah said as they wrapped up, "you could be teaching me soon if you keep this up." Adam's smile was small but real. "I wish I could stay here and learn from you all the time." The simple statement, laden with unmistakable longing, caught Noah off guard. "Is school not going well?" Adam shook his head. "I don't go to school here. I have private tutors for most subjects." His fingers nervously traced patterns on the table. "But they don't explain things like you do." Noah frowned. "No school? Don't you miss being around other kids?" "I've never really been to a regular school," Adam admitted. "Father says it wouldn't be appropriate." The conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Adam's escort. Not his father today, but one of the stern-faced men who always accompanied them. Adam gathered his materials with practiced efficiency, the vulnerable boy vanishing behind the perfect posture and impassive expression. "Next week," Noah said as Adam stood to leave. "I thought we might do something different." Adam paused. "Different?" "A field trip. Educational, of course." Noah smiled. "The university's observatory has a public night. Real telescopes, actual astronomers to answer questions." "I thought, since you love space," the hope that flashed across Adam's face was breathtaking. "Could we really? If your father approves. It's next Thursday evening instead of our usual time." Adam nodded, a new determination in his eyes. "I'll ask him. I'll convince him." After Adam left, Noah sought out Miss Rivera, his concerns about the bruises weighing heavily. Her expression grew troubled as he explained. "I've wondered myself," she admitted, "but the family is complicated. The father called me directly once, and the number was international. I've gathered they're here temporarily for some diplomatic matter." "Diplomatic?" Noah repeated. "What, like embassy staff?" She shrugged. "Higher, I think. They have security personnel, private cars." Adam let slip once that they normally live in a palace, though I assumed he was speaking metaphorically. Something clicked in Noah's mind. The formal speech, the isolation, the extreme privacy. "You don't think that we're dealing with actual royalty?" Ms. Rivera finished his thought. "I've wondered, but it's not our place to pry, and they've made it very clear they value discretion above all." Noah nodded slowly, thinking of Adam's carefully hidden bruises. "Royalty or not, if that kid is being hurt, we document, we observe, and if necessary, we report," she said firmly. "Status doesn't exempt anyone from child protection laws." The following week brought crushing disappointment. Noah received a text from Ms. Rivera that Adam's father had declined the observatory trip, citing security concerns. Worse, when their regular session arrived, Adam didn't appear. Noah waited an hour past their scheduled time before accepting that the boy wasn't coming. The pattern continued for 2 more weeks. No Adam, no explanation. Noah found himself worrying constantly about the quiet, solemn boy who had gradually come to trust him. Had the invitation somehow crossed an invisible line? Had Adam's father discovered the bruises had been noticed? Noah's own situation deteriorated further. The university's final notice came, pay or withdraw, and his bank account couldn't stretch to cover both tuition and rent. The choice was agonizing but clear. He paid the tuition, knowing he now had less than 2 weeks to find somewhere else to live. On a particularly grim Tuesday, as he packed his meager belongings into boxes, a knock came at his door. Expecting his landlord, Noah was stunned to find one of Adam's escorts standing in the hallway. "Mr. Sullivan," the man said formally, "your presence is requested." Noah blinked in confusion. "By whom? Is Adam okay?" "His Royal Highness Prince Adam is requesting your assistance." "A car is waiting." The words took several seconds to process. "His Royal Prince?" The man's expression remained impassive. "If you would come with me, sir. It's rather urgent." Numbly, Noah grabbed his coat and followed the man down the stairs and into the familiar black car. As they drove through the city toward its wealthiest district, his mind raced with questions. Prince Adam was actually royalty? Despite Miss Rivera's speculation, the reality seemed impossible. The car pulled into a private entrance of the city's most exclusive hotel, where they were ushered through service corridors to avoid the main lobby. Noah found himself led to a private elevator that opened directly into a stunning penthouse suite. And there, sitting at a table covered with textbooks, was Adam, looking simultaneously exactly the same and completely different. The rigid posture and formal clothing were familiar, but seeing him in this opulent setting transformed the context entirely. "Noah!" The boy's face lit up with genuine relief. You came! Adam, Noah managed, still processing. You're actually a prince? Adam's expression fell slightly. Yes. I'm sorry I couldn't tell you. Father has very strict rules about our privacy while we're abroad. He hesitated. Are you angry? The question, so childlike despite the regal surroundings, melted Noah's confusion. No, I'm not angry. Just surprised. Very, very surprised. A door opened and an imposing man entered. Adam's father, whom Noah had glimpsed only briefly before. Up close, the resemblance between father and son was striking. Though where Adam's eyes held warmth, the king's were calculating and cold. Mr. Sullivan, the man said, his accent more pronounced than his son's. I am King Matthias of Aldovia. I understand I owe you a debt of gratitude. Noah stood awkwardly, unsure of proper protocol. Should he bow? I'm not sure what you mean, Your Majesty. The king gestured to Adam. My son's academic performance has improved dramatically under your tutelage. More importantly, his confidence has grown. His expression softened marginally. Adam has spoken of little else but your teaching methods since we arrived in your country. Noah glanced at Adam, who was watching the interaction with visible anxiety. He's a brilliant student, sir. He just needed someone to believe in him. Something unreadable flickered across the king's face. Yes, well, we had to cancel your sessions due to a security concern, but Adam has fallen behind in his studies and has become, he paused, quite insistent that only you can help him prepare for his upcoming examinations. Noah suddenly understood. You want me to continue tutoring him? Here, where security can be properly maintained, the king confirmed. You would be compensated generously, of course. Noah's mind raced. Generously compensated could mean solving his financial crisis. Yet looking at Adam, at the tension in his small shoulders, the barely concealed hope in his eyes, Noah knew there was more at stake than money. I'd be happy to continue working with Adam, he said carefully, but I have some concerns I'd like to discuss. The king's eyebrows rose imperiously. Concerns? Noah took a deep breath. Adam occasionally comes to our sessions with unexplained injuries. As his tutor, I'm concerned about his well-being. The temperature in the room seemed to drop several degrees. The king's face hardened, and the security personnel shifted subtly. Adam's eyes widened in alarm. My son, the king said with dangerous precision, is heir to the throne of Aldovia. His training includes physical education appropriate to his station, including fencing, equestrian skills, and self-defense. Accidents occur. Of course, Noah replied, forcing himself to hold the man's gaze. I just wanted to ensure they were indeed accidents. For a moment, he thought he'd gone too far. Then surprisingly, the king laughed. A short, humorless sound. You Americans and your directness. It's refreshing, if inappropriate. He turned to Adam. Your tutor has courage, at least. Perhaps that's why you respond to him. To Noah, he added, I assure you, Mr. Sullivan, while I may demand excellence from my son, I do not abuse him. The bruise you likely observed came from a fall during riding lessons. Adam has a tendency to push himself too hard to please me. Adam stared at the floor, his cheeks flushed. Now, the king continued into practical matters. We require your services 3 times weekly until our departure next month. The compensation would be $10,000 paid upon completion. Noah nearly choked. $10,000 would solve every financial problem he had and then some. It would cover his final semester, rent for a new apartment, even leave something to help his mother. That's very generous. He managed. Then it's settled. The king nodded curtly. My assistant will provide the details. I'll leave you to begin today's lesson. With that, he strode from the room, entourage following. When the door closed, Adam's perfect posture collapsed like a deflating balloon. I thought you wouldn't come, he confessed. Father was very angry about the observatory suggestion. I'm sorry about that, Noah said, settling into a chair beside the boy. I should have asked him first instead of getting your hopes up. Adam shook his head. No, it was nice to hope, even for a little while. He glanced toward the door his father had exited through. Thank you for asking about the bruises. No one ever does that. Noah's heart twisted. Does your father? He left the question unfinished. He doesn't hit me, Adam said quickly. But the tutors he hires, the trainers, they know he values toughness. They're not always kind. He traced a pattern on the textbook. And father believes disappointment is a greater motivator than praise. The admission, so matter-of-fact from a 10-year-old, stirred something protective in Noah. Well, I believe differently. And for the next month, you're stuck with my teaching methods. Adam's smile returned, lighting his whole face. Can we still learn about the stars, even though we can't go to the observatory? Noah grinned. Better. I'm a physics major with an astronomy minor. We're going to turn this penthouse into our own personal planetarium. Over the following weeks, a remarkable transformation took place, not just in Adam, but in Noah as well. True to his word, the king's staff provided Noah with a generous advance that allowed him to secure a modest but decent apartment. For the first time in years, he didn't have to choose between eating and heating. More meaningful was the evolution of his relationship with Adam. Away from the community center, in the privacy of the penthouse, the boy gradually revealed more of himself. Noah learned that Adam's mother had died when he was 5, leaving him alone with a father who loved his country more than his son. He discovered that Adam dreamed of being an astronomer, but knew his future was predetermined by birth. Sometimes I wish I could be ordinary, Adam confessed one evening as they finished an impromptu lesson on constellations, using the ceiling lights dimmed to pinpricks and star charts Noah had brought. Like you, Noah, lying on the floor beside him looking up at their makeshift stars, laughed softly. Trust me, ordinary has its own problems. But you're free, Adam insisted. You chose to study physics because you love it. You volunteer to help kids because you want to, not because some ancient law says you must perform charitable works to maintain the family image. Noah turned his head to look at the boy. Is that why your father let you come to the community center? Royal Community Service? Adam nodded. We do a humanitarian project in every country we visit. Father usually arranges something with photographers and press, but this time, he hesitated. This time, the doctor suggested something more meaningful. Father has been worried about my sadness. Sadness? Adam's voice grew smaller. Since Mother died, I sometimes find it hard to care about anything. The doctor called it depression, but Father says royals don't get depressed. They persevere. He traced a constellation pattern with his finger. The doctor convinced him that genuine connection might help more than another ceremonial ribbon cutting. Noah absorbed this, thinking of the solemn boy he'd met months ago. And has it helped? Adam was quiet for a long moment. You're the only person who's ever been proud of me for something I actually did, not just for who I was born to be. He looked at Noah, his eyes reflecting the pinpoints of light above them. So yes, it helped. The simple honesty of the statement caught Noah off guard, a lump forming in his throat. Before he could respond, the door opened and the king entered unexpectedly. He surveyed the scene, his son and the tutor lying on the floor staring at the ceiling with visible confusion. What is the meaning of this? He demanded. Adam scrambled to his feet. Astronomy lesson, Father. Noah was showing me how to identify the winter constellations. The king frowned. On the floor? Noah stood more slowly. It's easier to see the whole pattern from this angle, Your Majesty. We were recreating the night sky since we couldn't visit the observatory. Something unreadable crossed the king's face as he looked from Noah to his son. I see. After a moment, he added, the Prime Minister is calling in 10 minutes to discuss your return schedule. Clean up this planetarium and prepare for bed, Adam. Yes, Father. Adam began gathering the star charts, but not before shooting Noah a small private smile. As Noah prepared to leave, the king unexpectedly detained him. A word, Mr. Sullivan. Noah followed him to an adjoining room, mentally preparing for criticism of his unorthodox teaching methods. Instead, the king said, my son smiles now. Noah blinked, uncertain how to respond. Sir? After his mother died, Adam stopped smiling. Real smiles, not the public ones he's been trained to produce. The king's gaze was penetrating, yet with you, he smiles genuinely. Laughs even. I heard it through the door before I entered. He's a remarkable child, Noah said carefully. Brilliant and kind. He deserves to be happy. The king studied him. You speak to me with unusual directness, Mr. Sullivan. I'm sorry if... No. The king waved away the apology. It's refreshing after years of courtiers who say only what they believe I wish to hear. He moved to a window overlooking the city lights. Adam tells me you are struggling financially despite your obvious intelligence. Well, why is that? The question was so unexpected that Noah answered honestly. I grew up poor. My mother raised me alone after my father left. I earned scholarships, but when she got sick last year, I missed too many classes trying to care for her. My GPA dropped just enough to lose my funding. Yet you volunteer at that community center. For free? Noah shrugged. Teachers changed my life when I was a kid. I'm just paying it forward. The king turned, his expression thoughtful. I misjudged you, I think. When Adam insisted on continuing with you, I assumed it was a childish attachment, perhaps even manipulation on your part to access our family. I didn't even know he was a prince. Noah said, slightly offended. Precisely, which is why you treated him as Adam, not as His Royal Highness. The king's voice softened marginally. Do you know how rarely my son experiences that? Before Noah could respond, the king straightened. We leave for Aldovia in 3 weeks. Until then, you may continue your lessons, including your floor astronomy if it produces results. With a nod of dismissal, he turned back to the window. The 3 weeks that followed were among the strangest and most wonderful of Noah's life. His financial situation stabilized completely, not just from the royal payment, but because his focus on Adam had somehow translated to his own studies. His grades rebounded, and with them, a partial scholarship reinstatement. Adam blossomed under their intensified schedule. Beyond academics, they explored the boy's curiosity about ordinary life, things a prince never experienced. Noah brought him simple pleasures, chocolate milkshakes smuggled past the royal security, comic books hidden among textbooks, stories about growing up in an ordinary family. In return, Adam shared glimpses of royal life, the weight of centuries of expectations, the loneliness of always being set apart, the genuine desire to someday be a king who made a difference. Their final week arrived too quickly. During their last session, Adam was uncharacteristically quiet, working through problems with mechanical precision rather than his usual enthusiasm. Hey, Noah said gently. What's going on in that royal brain of yours? Adam looked up, his eyes suspiciously bright. I leave tomorrow. I know, buddy. Noah felt his own chest tighten unexpectedly. But you're going to keep learning, keep growing. And you'll be back in your home country where... where no one knows me. Adam interrupted. Not really. Not like you do. He pushed away his textbook. I don't want another tutor. I want you to keep teaching me. Noah sighed. Adam, father could arrange it. He could offer you a position in the royal household. You could finish your degree online or at Aldovian University. They have an excellent physics program. I checked. The desperation in the boy's voice broke Noah's heart. Adam, my life is here. My mom needs me nearby. And you have a whole future ahead of you, one I've just been a small part of. Not small, Adam whispered. Important. Noah swallowed hard. You've been important to me too. More than you know. They sat in silence for a moment before Noah reached into his bag. I brought you something. A going-away present. He handed Adam a small box. Inside was a simple star projector, compact enough to hide easily. It's not fancy, Noah explained as Adam examined it with wonder. But if you plug it in and point it at your ceiling at night, you'll have your own private stars. No matter where you are. Adam clutched the projector to his chest. Thank you. Then with a formality that couldn't quite mask his emotion, he added, I shall treasure it always. Their goodbye the next day was brief and formal, conducted under the watchful eyes of the king and his entourage. Adam, once again the perfect prince, shook Noah's hand with practiced precision. Thank you for your service, Mr. Sullivan, he said, his voice steady despite the emotion in his eyes. It was my honor, Your Highness, Noah replied, matching his formality while trying to convey everything unsaid in his gaze. The king stepped forward. Mr. Sullivan, Aldovia thanks you for your contribution to the prince's education. He handed Noah an envelope, a token of our appreciation beyond the agreed compensation. And then they were gone, whisked away to their waiting diplomatic vehicles, leaving Noah standing alone with an envelope he was almost afraid to open. When he finally did, back in his new apartment, he found not just a check, though that was there, an amount that made his eyes widen, but a handwritten note on royal stationery. Mr. Sullivan, some debts cannot be repaid with money, though I have endeavored to ensure your financial security regardless. What you have given my son, confidence, joy, a sense of his own worth beyond his title, these are gifts beyond price. The door to Aldovia will always be open to you, should you wish to visit or continue your influence on Adam's education in the future. With sincere gratitude, Matthias Rex below, in a child's careful handwriting, P.S. The stars work perfectly. I see them every night and remember that ordinary can be extraordinary. Echo. 6 months later, Noah stood in the university auditorium, diploma in hand, scanning the crowd for his mother's face. As he found her, waving proudly from her seat, his gaze caught on something unexpected. A familiar stern-faced man in a perfect suit standing at the back of the hall. Their eyes met, and the man gave a small nod before gesturing toward the exit. Outside, away from the crowds, a familiar black car waited. The door opened, and Adam emerged. Slightly taller, his formal attire now including a small ceremonial sash, but his smile entirely his own. "Congratulations, Noah," he said, his voice deepened just slightly with the months of growth. "Father said I could come surprise you as long as we kept it quiet." Noah laughed in disbelief. "How did you even know when I was graduating?" Adam's eyes twinkled. "I may have maintained correspondence with Miss Rivera. Royal diplomatic channels can be useful that way." Noah pulled him into a hug, protocol forgotten. "I've missed you, buddy." "Me too." Adam stepped back, suddenly serious. "I have a proposition for you. Father has approved it already." "A proposition?" Adam nodded. "Aldovian University has offered you a fully funded position in their doctoral program in astrophysics. And I," he straightened with pride, "have negotiated a part-time position for you as my continuing academic advisor, specializing in sciences and mathematics." Noah stared, speechless. "Your mother would be included, of course," Adam continued quickly. "The University Medical Center is excellent, and her care would be fully covered. You could complete your doctorate while we continue our work together." His formal facade cracked slightly. "Please say yes. I've learned so much about stars in your absence, but have had no one to share it with who truly understands." Noah looked at the boy, this remarkable child who happened to be a prince who had entered his life when they both needed someone to believe in them. "Well," he said finally, "I did always want to see more of the world." Adam's face lit up with a joy so pure, it erased all traces of the solemn child Noah had first met. "Really? You'll come?" Noah nodded, his own heart unexpectedly full. "On one condition." "Anything. We still have astronomy lessons on the floor sometimes. Prince or not, the stars look better that way." Adam laughed, the sound no longer startled but confident and free. "I believe that can be arranged. I am the prince after all." As they stood together in the sunshine, an unlikely teacher and his royal student, Noah marveled at how a simple act of kindness, tutoring a struggling child for free, had transformed both their lives in ways neither could have imagined. The universe, it seemed, had its own way of bringing the right souls together, whether in tiny apartments or royal palaces, all under the same vast, star-filled sky.